So we have a bit of a breaking news update for you, one that whilst was known and already in the public sphere is in fact now finally been officially confirmed, and that is that come 2028 the sport of T20I cricket will be featured in the Summer Olympics that are set to be held in Los Angeles. We've gotten that confirmation at long last.
Absolutely, that confirmation in fact coming from Mumbai at the 141st IOC session that took place. Remember, 40 years later since you had the last IOC session take place here in India, you've now gotten a confirmation from the land where cricket is the most celebrated, and of course now you will see Olympics have the discipline of cricket as well in the T20I format of the game, remember, and we're talking about both men's and women's cricket here. So not just, let's say, men's cricket getting a boost, but women's cricket also getting a major boost as far as taking the game forward and taking the game to a larger population is concerned. That's why you have something like the Olympics, and it'll be great for the game which at the moment isn't played enough, let's say, but for the fact that yes, there is growing popularity, there are other nations and people taking interest, including the associate nations. It is good that at the most competitive sporting event in the world you will now have cricket feature. It's not going to happen in 2024 Paris, but it has been approved for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympic Games.
Now, in fact, it's interesting you mentioned Paris 2024, where the next Olympics will be happening. If hypothetically it had to be approved for Paris, would have been a nice coming together moment as far as circularity of history is concerned. Why? Because believe it or not, cricket has actually been held at the Olympics only once, 1900 Paris Games. You heard that right. Cricket, this is not actually, and that's why if you notice, neither of us mentioned.
Just the one game perhaps.
Yeah.
The one game between France and Britain had taken place back then, but I was reading about it, and perhaps the organizers also didn't get to know about when that game took place and got over as well.
It was a 2-day test match.
Exactly. So when it happened, nobody had any clue. There is only very limited evidence of that, but not the first time, by the way, as far as trivia for cricket in the Olympics is concerned. Not the first time. It's been played once before, but it's coming back after 100 years.
128 years to be specific, and in a format that at that time didn't even exist. Back then you only had test cricket. In fact, fun story, this team you're talking about, yes, it was between Great Britain and France. That French team had about 11 Brits. So it was basically England playing themselves. So it wasn't really a competitive match. Actually, what had happened was that initially when the sport was put in, there were about 10 teams who had expressed interest in playing, but one by one most of them ended up pulling out, which meant there only 2 teams were left by the time the games rolled around. It was Great Britain and France. So they said, no, we'll just have a one-off match to determine the winner. So the only medal that has been won in this sport, the only 2 medals rather, belong to Great Britain, not so surprisingly, and France. Now, obviously, T20 cricket has come about and changed a lot. Remember, T20 cricket now, even if you look at it at the international level, every game, regardless of whether it's played by associate nation, full member nations, is given international status. So that is why it makes full sense that you're seeing this format of the game come to the Olympics when it finally does.
And I'm not surprised that they've chosen to go ahead with the T20I format. You're looking at other formats. One, of course, Test cricket. You only at the moment have 5 competitive nations. At best 6. That too, when a couple of those nations are playing only at home, are forces to reckon with. But otherwise, it just had to be this format, because ODI format has been battling its own challenges. You're looking at ODI format of the game, in fact, being looked at as the most boring format of the game as we speak. So it's going into a state where you don't even know what the future of ODI cricket is. It could head into oblivion. Nobody knows at the moment where ODI cricket is headed. So for the popularity of the game and for cricket to reach more audiences, it had to be the T20I format of the game. 3.5 hours and you're out of the game. You have a winner in slam bang manner, something which the younger generation likes, something which obviously the globe, people across the globe are liking at the moment, which is why you've got so many of these T20I leagues also that have mushroomed over the years. all started, let's say, with the IPL, then you had PSL, you had CPL, but there's a BBL, there's a Vitality League and whatnot. Everything happening all across the
Don't forget, even America got a T20 league of their own recently.
Yes,
the MLC, Major League Cricket
as well, which had its inaugural season just about a couple of months back. So not surprised over there as to why the T20I format of the game was chosen. But once again, a reminder, we're not just talking about men's cricket here. Women's cricket also gets a big boost. Remember, you're looking at a year where you had the inaugural edition of the Women's Premier League also take place. You're talking about equal wages. You're talking about giving the women cricketers equal footing, equal platform. You'll have all of that, and you're headed in the right direction with a move as gigantic and momentous as this one.
Absolutely. And of course, it's a win-win for both sides. Cricket gets more exposure and the Olympics taps into a South Asian market that, truth be told, was probably not watching the Olympics as much, because generally speaking, a lot of South Asian nations don't get that much glory when it comes to the Olympic sports. So that's also a win-win. As I said, good situation. Don't forget, if I remember correctly, LA will be getting a full purpose cricket stadium very soon, thanks in no small part to investments from, if I'm not wrong, the Kolkata Knight Riders group. Because they do also own the LA Knight Riders, right? So they want to get a fully fledged cricket stadium. Right now, America doesn't have too many. That's why even next year's World Cup, which is set to be co-hosted, has very few venues in America. I think it's only 3 venues which are taking place. One of which is basically a pop-up stadium.
Yeah.
So obviously great for the growth of the sport. You're reaching the Olympics, spreading to new markets. So fingers crossed. Let's see how this goes. I'm definitely very excited.
So am I, and this comes in the backdrop of there being news that India does want to
host the Olympics
as well. There will be an official bid, hopefully from India very soon. The Prime Minister confirmed that just about a day or two back. You're looking at 2036, so 8 years on after cricket would have made its return to the Olympics, you could have the mega tournament take place here in India as well.
Absolutely.
Also, it comes at a time, we break this news to you at a time where the Cricket World Cup is being played in India right now.
Exactly.
So lots to cherish, lots to be happy about. If you're
in fact, speaking of that, you have a match coming up, and we were actually going to join you live at that match. Unfortunately, this news came about, so we thought we'll talk to you about it first. We'll join you back now in a couple of minutes to discuss what is shockingly a must-win game for Australia.
Absolutely. 2 matches for them, though both they've lost against India to begin with, then against South Africa. Well, they really have some socks to pull up. Can they do that? What is the team composition like? What's exactly happened at the toss in this particular match? We'll tell you all of that. Shane and I will be with you in just a short while.
Bye-bye.